Hey, party people! Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer, and this is the first of 3 very special episodes of Party of One. You see, for the next 3 weeks, we are playing 3 games of Night's Black Agents Solo Ops, now available from Pelgrane Press. I've got 3 guests lined up, that is, Grant Ellis, Cole Burkhart, and first and foremost, this week's guest, Biz, from the Throwing Bones podcast, all of whom are stepping into the title role of Agent Leyla Khan, MI5 agent turned vampire thrall turned vampire hunter, as we undertake a 3-part serialized saga. 3 actors, 3 games, 1 character, 1 continuous story. It is very ambitious, very cool. I think it worked pretty well. I think it made a pretty cool series of episodes. Each chapter completely self-contained with just a little bit of continuity between each one. I think this is some of the coolest stuff that we've done on the show. I'm really excited. I hope you're ready for 3 straight weeks of vampire-killing super spy action. As you might have gathered, Night's Black Agent Solo Ops is a game of spies killing vampires. It is powered by the Gumshoe 121 system, which we've played before on the show in the Cthulhu Confidential episode with Senda. It is a game about super spies who have come aware of a vampire conspiracy and have gone on the attack. It's very cool. It takes the mystery engine of Gumshoe in a very different and interesting direction. I'm really excited about it. I love it. I think you're really going to dig this episode. You can find more information about Night's Black Agents Solo Ops in the show notes. Biz, as I mentioned, is the host of the Throwing Bones podcast, a queer-led storytelling and RPG podcast that focuses on themes of diversity, mental health, and interpersonal relationships. You can find more information about Throwing Bones at throwingbonespodcast.buzzsprout.com. You can also follow them on Twitter at bones_throwing or check the show notes for more information. Now, as I've mentioned for the last few weeks, I've put the Party of One or the Jeff Stormer Patreon on hold for the time being. In the current circumstances, I'm fine from a financial perspective, and there's people that, if you want to support the show, I think there's people that could use that money more and that money can be better used towards supporting. So if you check the show notes, there are some links to some sources where people can, you can pledge that money. Specifically, there's the One Shot Safety Net, which is helping members of the One Shot Network whose income has been impacted. There is also Nathan DiPoletta's Friendship Fund. It is a mutual aid fund for people that need it. If you've got some money and want to support the show, I would appreciate it if you supported the mutual aid fund instead, or the One Shot Safety Net. Basically, there will be a time when I will accept your money and use it to fund weird projects and podcasts and things, but for now, I'd rather that money go towards people that could really use it. So yeah, check the show notes for all that. And with that said, why don't we go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week, I am sitting down with Biz. Biz, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, real quick at the top of the show, why don't you take a moment and let the lovely listeners at home know about all the great stuff that you've got going on that you might want them to know about.
Right, hello, my name is Elizabeth Diedrich. I go by Biz, and I'm a creative entrepreneur, professional game master, podcast host, musician, composer, lots of stuff. I host, edit, and compose for an actual play podcast called Throwing Bones. Throwing Bones is a queer-led role-playing podcast that focuses on themes of diversity, mental health, and interpersonal relationships. You can find us on Twitter at bones_throwing, and we also have a Patreon and a fan Discord server. You can find us through Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, and Buzzsprout.
Perfect. That was I was one of the most comprehensive rundowns that I've had in a while, and I'm slightly caught off guard.
I wrote it down, so.
No, I honestly, I appreciate that. Thank you for being prepared and being professional. It means a lot to me. It makes my job easier.
No problem. This is my first time guest starring on a podcast, so it's really exciting, and I want to make a good impression, so.
Well, you've done that. Mission accomplished. Kickstarter 2018. So this week we are playing the first of 3 sessions of Night's Black Agents. The way that this episode and the 2 that come after it are going to work is I have 3 guests lined up. I'm sure I talked about this in the intro, but it's fine. I have 3 guests lined up. They're each going to play one adventure from the Night's Black Agent solo ops book, playing the same character, and we're going to see a little bit of a 3-act story in individual segments. It's kind of a weird, over-ambitious idea that I'm really excited about, and so I'm kind of gushing about it a little bit. So, with that said, why don't you take a moment and introduce us to the character that you're playing this week, to give me a little bit of an idea of, like, your approach to the character and what's kind of exciting you about the character that you're playing.
Alright, so I'm playing Leyla Khan. She is a former spy with amnesia. Her father's British, her mother's Lebanese. And she doesn't remember much about her life other than that. She does know, however, that she was forced to serve somebody and did a lot of bad stuff that she's not very proud of, and she wants to get revenge. I kind of picture her as, I like to play very intelligence-focused characters, so coming up with creative solutions to problems, really focused on finding clues, putting things together. She seemed a little high-strung in my opinion, so I want to play that up. Like, she's very business first. She likes to get the jobs done. Isn't as good at social relationships. Is very focused on her goal.
So the scenario that we're playing today is called Never Say Dead. It is the story of Leyla breaking free from the vampires and getting revenge on the vampire that wronged her, and sort of establishing a bit of a status quo. We open on we fade in on a hospital room. The smell of disinfectant, the sound of low muffled voices in the corridor, hospital sheets. You have woken up in like a small, private, sort of cramped hospital room. Like a 1-bed corner room. It's a little dingy, like kind of 70s-ish. It's in no way like the latest and greatest, it feels like there's maybe some health violations at play here, especially considering hospitals are supposed to be a little sterile, but you've woken up. You have an intravenous drip in one arm and dressing on a wound on your side. Otherwise, you appear uninjured. So now we're going to lay out a few gameplay mechanics things. To your point about solving mysteries and coming up with solutions to the problems, that is pretty much the crux of the Gumshoe system, which is what Night's Black Agents is based on. So you have a list of skills on your character sheet that are investigative skills. You can use these kind of at any time. Anytime it makes sense to you, you can kind of push those skills to ask questions and get clues and figure things out from there. You also have some general skills on your character sheet that when you invoke those skills to accomplish things, or if I call on you to invoke those skills to deal with challenges, you'll roll a number of 6-sided dice equal to the number next to that skill. And then the other thing is you'll receive, over the course of the adventure, some either problem cards or edge cards, which are sort of like plot points and scenario type things. And so we're going to start things off. I'm going to give you a problem card. Beaten up. You can get rid of this card by taking time and resting, or you can kind of push through it and continue to investigate. But you hear people outside. You've got a wrapped wound on your side. You're in this tiny hotel room, and you're not 100% sure like how you got here.
Hospital room?
Hospital room. What did I say?
You said hotel room.
Yep, nope, hospital room, thank you. You're in this cramped hospital room, you've got a wound on your side, you're not 100% sure how you've gotten here, you have vague memories of, like, being on the move and on the run, and because you are beaten up, you have an injury card, you don't know what happened to you, but it sure did hurt.
Alright, not the best decision tactically, but how I picture her is, not appreciating being hooked up to taps and wires, so she's going to try to remove the IV that's in her arm.
Okay. I think that you can pull it out. Okay. So you pull it out pretty quickly. Like you are a spy. You're able to like pull out an IV pretty quickly. It hurts like a son of a gun, but you pull it out. And immediately it starts to buzz. Or you hear a beeping, right? Because obviously the IV is disconnected. This is a bit of a this gives the illusion of a medical emergency. Almost immediately a young woman in a nurse's uniform comes in to check on you, pauses, sees you pulling out the thing, and starts kind of speaking to you in Hungarian. And is sort of panicking a little bit, speaking very quickly at you in Hungarian, and like pauses for a second and just looks at you and like tries to like, take a step back and starts to be like, "What? No, don't do that." Okay, no, sit back down. We can put back in the.
She'll hold up a hand and point to the gauze on her side and say, "Do you have more of this?"
Yes. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. We can.
Then wrap it up. I can't be staying here too long.
I mean, you have to. You're injured. We can't let you.
Where am I exactly?
A hospital? And she's like very confused by your question. Like she does not fully understand like the question that you're asking her.
No, like state, province, country.
Oh my. Oh, apparently the accident was worse than we had been told. Give me 1 second to figure out where you actually are. I think you're in Hungary, but I want to confirm.
Also, we should probably stop this bleeding.
Oh, yes. That's probably very, very helpful. And she, like, she immediately, you are, and she's, like, pauses, and she's, like, kind of, she starts dressing your wound. She starts kind of, like, patching you up and, like, adding new gauze, cleaning it out. And as that is happening, she's kind of just being like, she starts being like, of course, you are just outside of Budapest, Hungary. My name is Halmi. I am your nurse. You were found in an accident. It was a car. They believe that you were out hiking and that you were struck by something. It seems like maybe you got struck on a tree. We're not 100% sure. Do you have I want you to do me a favor, and can you look at your character's skills?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you want to use, like you're trying if you want to get anything out of her, if you want to use one of your interpersonal skills on her, you can get her to give you some more information. Or you can, if you want to use one of your character's interpersonal skills, she can give you some information.
What about reassurance in her saying, "Don't worry, I've been in worse situations than this. I know how to handle myself."
It doesn't. I mean, pardon my my skepticism, but it doesn't exactly seem that way. I mean, they said they found you. Like they said, you hit a rock, but I mean, this thing seems like a gunshot wound. Like this you fell on a pretty sharp rock for a hiker that tripped. And as she is I thought you kind of dressing your wound, you can get rid of that beat up card because she takes some time and kind of cleans you up.
Mm.
But in the time that happens, a doctor comes in, Dr. Herman Vertag. Herman is sort of scraggly beard that has like the mask over top of it. Very slicked back hair, is kind of tapping his fingers together and like immediately stops, sees the two of you, sees like her working on you, and is like, Holly, no. If she's up and about, we should focus on making sure that she is as healthy as she can be. We need to make sure she's in bed and resting. It's very, very important that she be in bed and resting. And he is sort of starting to kind of like hustle her out of the room almost like very kind of quickly and muttering a lot of business speak under his breath.
Leyla kind of watches this interaction. She's immediately a little suspicious of the doctor. And
one of your skills. So this is there's certain times when your skills when I can trigger your skills for you and say your bullshit detector should be going off like a siren.
Yeah, she's very suspicious of this doctor, and says she speaks up and says, "You know what? I'm actually feeling pretty fine now. I've been patched up. I'm not lightheaded or anything like that. And I believe legally you can't keep me here unless there's an ongoing investigation."
Oh, very, very well done. So I think he pauses and he kind of like he stops and he's like, "No, well, I mean, we can't legally keep you here, but obviously it is very important that you get your bed rest." And he starts like moving toward you and reaching into his jacket, which you kind of start to see a needle come out of it, and he's like, I think we need to make sure that you are like in bed and you're not thinking clearly.
She's gonna try to grab his wrist.
All right, I'm gonna ask you to give me a fighting roll.
So, I do have a question.
Yes.
Next to all of my general abilities, there's 2 dice. Does that mean that I have 2 dice?
Yes, that means you roll 2 dice and add them together.
Right. Okay. And I do remember reading I can roll 1 at a time and see what the result is. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I got a 1 on the first one. And a 3, so 4 total.
Okay. I believe that is a mixed success. Where am I?
Could I use evasion to add a dice?
Yes.
So she would try, before she goes for the wrist, she's going to quickly wait for him to go to strike, dodge to the side, and then grab the wrist.
Okay. Add that D6.
Alright.
Well, before you do that, I will say, at a 4, you will knock the syringe out of the doctor's hand. But if you get a 7 or more, you can grab it or disarm him and like get answers from him.
Yeah, I think I'll go with the evasion. Let's see.
Yeah.
I got a 2.
Okay, so that keeps you at a 6. That means you still knock the syringe out of the doctor's hand. However, he's knocked, like, you've knocked it out of the hand, the syringe kind of shatters, and he kind of starts to back away, like, clearly it didn't take much, it's not going to take much to, like, get him to, like, he was not anticipating any sort of a fight here. Like, he kind of thought that he had the upper hand, and now that he doesn't, he is sort of panic.
Who do you work for?
I work for, and he sort of pauses for a second, and the fact that what I will say is he pauses for a second. He like does not want to answer the question. He is very specifically like paranoid about like answering you. And as he starts to like stumble out an answer about like I work for the hospital, I am Sorry, go ahead.
She says no, that's that's not what I mean.
I don't know what you and as you kind of like loom over him, you tower over him, he clearly starts to stammer. He's like, you don't know what you're up against. And that's about when a phone starts ringing from a backpack on a chair next to your bed. As that happens, he like bursts out of the room. Like, he just screams, like, he just starts, like, he screams, he is long gone. Halmy, watches him leave and comes in and stares at you, like, terror on her face as she starts to, like, kind of hands up as, like, I don't know what you did, but... And she, like, doesn't know how to finish that sentence, and then there's that phone ringing. Do you talk to Halmy, or do you answer the phone?
She'll say something very short to Holly as she goes to pick up the phone and swing the backpack on her back. She says, "You should do better background checks," and then picks up the phone.
What you hear on the other line is, like, thumps, grunts, and heavy breathing. It sounds like two people fighting for the possession of the phone. There's a gunshot, and then silence, and then a few seconds later, like, the call ends, and then a moment later, it pops up with a text message that just says, "They're after you. Get to church ASAP."
Does she recognize the number?
You don't recognize the number. It's not listed in the phone. In fact, you look at the number and it has nothing listed, and then that pulls you to the contact screen, and there's no numbers listed, which pulls you, and you, like, flip through it. This is obviously, like, a burner phone with no data on it, except for one other text message.
Oh, what's the other text?
It is a message listing the address of a church in Budapest.
Is it a different number or the same number?
It is a different number, but you get the vibe that it's the same church, that it may or may be two people working together.
She is suspicious because she doesn't know if the person who was supposed to have that phone has it anymore. She goes through her phone. She goes through her backpack to take an inventory of what she has.
What she has in the backpack. There's a change of clothes in it, and then the phone. But there is, like, a change of clothes that appears to be, I think the best way to describe the clothes in the bag they are mundane to the point of, like, obviousness, right? Like, they are clothes that are put together very specifically to leave no impression. So, like, maybe not, like, black leather, but, like, gray, like a gray leather jacket and a flannel shirt and very nondescript blue jeans that don't have any tags or anything.
And she's currently in a hospital gown, I assume?
Yes.
Right. She'll look at Halmy, and then is Halmy still in the room, like, just watching her?
I think she sees you grab the clothes and, sort of, like, quietly turns away and is like, I'm gonna let you get changed. I think.
Thank you. She will change into the other clothes. Put the backpack on. She'll make it, like, seem, like, kind of noisy while she's changing and glance around to see if there's, like, a weapon or just a tool that she can grab, so that she doesn't just have nothing.
The only, like, the closest you've got to a weapon is there's like a food tray. Like one of those old metal food trays, like an aluminum cookie tray almost. And as you kind of go for it, you see out the window, 3 black... You know how I said your clothes were sort of, nondescript, obviously nondescript?
Yes.
These 3 black Jeeps that are pulling up are not making the same effort to not blend in. The 3 black Jeeps pull up outside, and people start to climb out of them.
All right. She quickly, I guess I think the food pan would be too obvious, so she's just going to leave that there, scan the room quickly to see if there's a security camera. Not going to do anything about it, just note it if there is one.
There does not appear to be one.
Okay. Is she on the how high up is she?
You can see that you're on the fourth floor, which is the top floor of the hospital.
Not ideal. Do these people exiting the van, do they seem, are they running? Are they casually getting out?
They are running with guns in hand.
Okay, she's going to look at Halami and say, is there a fire escape nearby or an emergency exit?
She kind of like stops and pauses, and she's like, why do you ask? What? And because, you know, like I said, her back is turned out of respect, out of courtesy, so she is unaware of anything happening behind her.
Well, considering the doctor just attacked me and you seem like a nice lady, I really don't want to deal with any of the other staff here, as I fear for my own safety. So I would like to take an exit that avoids other people.
And she kind of pauses and like starts to turn back, and then says, yes, there is an exit this, and she kind of like gestures. She's like, down the hall to the right in the far southwest corner of the building, there is a fire escape that should get you downstairs.
All right. Thank you. Have a nice day. And she'll go to the door and peek out into the hallway, look down both ways to make sure it's safe.
It is. There's nobody here yet because you haven't taken any, like, you because you let Halmi treat your wounds and you didn't just take time to rest and heal them on your own. Like, you've got a little bit more time to get to that to get out before they kind of get here.
All right, she's gonna go for the fire escape.
All right, I'm going to ask you for an evasion challenge, which you've already used one of your evasion dice. So you've got one evasion dice left, but you can also use your infiltration dice because you're very good at infiltrating things.
All right. We'll see how the evasion dice goes. That's a 2. So I'll go ahead and use one of the infiltration dice. That's a 1.
Okay. I do believe you failed to evade them, but I will make 100% sure. You got a 3?
In total, yes.
Yeah, so you start to climb down, and you see through a window, right? Like, you see through a window somebody kick open what was clearly the door you were in, point a gun. You see Halmi throw her hands up and start and gesture towards the towards where the fire escape is. So you're kind of in a spot where your pretty much only option from here is going to be well, you've got a few options. Like, you watch them kind of you see that hitman, we'll call him a hitman because call him what he is. You see the hitman, like, run for the exit, and, like, before you even have a chance to really, like, react, you're about, like, a floor below him, and he's climbing onto the fire escape.
Alright, she's gonna try to go into the floor instead of going further down.
Okay.
What does she see immediately?
What you see immediately is, you see... Give me an infiltration roll.
Okay. So that's just the 1 dice?
Yep.
5.
Okay. You climb into the hospital. You are making your way through. You actually see, and like you make your way into a room. It's fairly empty. The lights are out except for one kind of flickering bulb above. And you actually see through like the door, the window. You kind of crouch down for a minute because you see one of the guards, or one of the hitmen, like the assassins, like run by the door and pause for a second.
Oh,
and
she's
like kind of clearly get told on an earpiece to like head for the fire escape.
Ooh, so he stops like right outside the door where she can, like, the door is open and she can see him?
The door is closed. You can see him through like the little porthole window on the door.
Okay. So she's gonna stay quiet and move away from the door and wait for him to go.
He runs past to run to where he can climb onto the fire escape proper as opposed to through a window.
Alright. Currently is the fire escape on the same side of the building, like that windows in the room are?
Yes.
Okay, so she's not gonna go out there. Scans the room real quickly for any weapon, any tool she could use.
You do find some medical supplies, so like a scalpel and the little like hammer that you for reflexes. So like some very basic like exam supplies.
All right. So sort of like have the scalpel in her palm, but like facing it towards herself. She's kind of hiding it against herself so that it's not clear that she has a weapon if she needs one. And then she's going to wait like 1 or 2 more beats and then crack and look outside the door.
You see him just turn the corner and start to move towards the fire escape on like the far side. Like you see him turn the corner and the coast appears to be clear.
All right. Are there any staff around?
There is. You see poor Halmy like burst out of a stairwell door and like try to run to what is clearly a break room to grab her things and get the hell out of here.
All right, she'll pause, let Halamy run by, and then she'll check. She'll like go along the walls and check to see if anybody's inside the break room.
Mm-hmm. After Halmy grabs her things, the break room is pretty empty.
Alright, she'll slip inside and she's looking to see if there's an extra uniform or anything she could use in here.
There actually is. There is a kind of hanging on a hanger in like a closet or an ottoman type situation or a wardrobe. There is like a nurse's uniform.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, she's going to put on the nurse's outfit.
Okay. And so, why don't you give me? Let me look at the skill list and see what skill I want you to give me to try and get out of here. I might call this evasion, or invasion, infiltration. No, cover. There's cover. There's the skill for cover.
All right, cool, because that's what I have dice for. All right. 6.
Okay.
On the first roll.
6 is a hold. 6 is you make your way through, and I think what happens is like one of the guards kind of runs past you and shoulder checks you a little bit. You kind of clutch your side just ever so slightly, because boy does it sting. But you do appear to be able to get out of the building, but there is the issue of like getting out of the building is half the battle, right? They still appear to be running towards where they will eventually cross paths with you.
Mm-hmm. Can she see the vans they got out of, and did they leave anybody with the vans?
The vans appear to be empty.
She's gonna try to get over and check for keys.
There are no keys in the car.
That's unfortunate. Is it possible she would know how to hotwire a car?
You... Undeniably, yes. I think that, like, you open the door and you look at the car and almost without, like, you see it before your eyes, you kind of see the wires that need to connect together. I will ask for a mechanics roll, but yes, you could pretty comfortably... You immediately, whether or not you realize it, realize you know how to do this.
Awesome. Okay, rolling mechanics. That's a 1, because I'm going to roll the second dice. That's a 6, so 7.
7. Yeah, you reach under the wheel box, you tie the wires together. You are on the road. You are on the road. You are just about out of the parking lot when you hear the other trucks start, and they are close behind, but you are on your way out. You've managed to get through. You've managed to at least get on the raid. I am going to ask you for one last driving roll to see if you can evade them.
Okay.
Unless you have another plan altogether.
Well, I think it'll fall under driving. She's going to try to take side roads and, make sure she gets out of line of sight. Driving first roll is 6. I think this is important. 6 would be a hold, right?
6 would be a hold. You would lose them. So you've guaranteed to lose them, but there's what I'll say is there's an opportunity, like, you kind of pull off onto a side road, and it's like a little 2-lane highway, and one of the cars, like, is still trailing you a little bit, and they start to try kind of overtake you. You could, if you drive just right, knock them off the road, or you could just lose them. It's up, but you can knock them off the road and take them out for well and for good.
I think she would try to knock them off.
Okay.
That's another 2.
All right, that is exactly going to do it. You are going. So what happens is there like a truck pulls out, like you see a truck pulling on the other lane of this 2-lane road, and you pull up next to them, and he starts to point a gun. He doesn't see the truck. He veers the car off the road to avoid hitting the truck, straight into a tree. Straight into a tree. The car is wrecked. You are safely on your way, and you get an edge card. Where's that edge card? Which edge cards are advantages that you'll pick up during the game. Every guy you take out now is one enemy you don't need to fight later. You can at any time use the attrition card you can discard it to describe how you take advantage of the enemy's depleted numbers to gain an extra die or a push when dealing with the bad guys.
Alright, so she drives. Does she recognize anything?
You actually do. You have flashbacks of you're driving and, like, you realize you didn't, like, pull up maps. You don't have a map, and yet you're handling these roads like they're the back of your hand. You actually have memories of driving these roads, of, like, being chased down these roads. Like, it felt very comfortable to you. Like, this was the back of your hand. It feels familiar enough that you feel like you did this recently. It feels like you made a break from someone recently. And you have these flashbacks and suddenly you taste, like, rose water in your mouth. As you're kind of experiencing this, you have this taste, and, like, memories bits and pieces of memory of, like, drinking something based in rose water and fleeing from someone that was trying to take you out and crashing a car, and you have all of these scattered memories that are slowly starting to come together as you kind of make your way, as you just kind of drive and, like, make your way, and suddenly, like, and you're starting to piece things together.
All right, if she, like, tries to picture a local church, does anything come to mind?
It does, actually. You have this memory. You actually, like, you focus on this memory, and you focus on this memory really, really hard, and you realize, like, that memory of drinking that rose water, that rose taste in your mouth, was in, like, a small church. And you remember like, fighting it. You remember like barely being able to stand in the church and being offered this potion and this elixir, this beverage, and suddenly, like, that weight, that tension, that discomfort, you remember it shaking. You remember being shaken just as something tore inside and, like, attacked you. But you remember being in agony, drinking this thing in this church, and then being okay in the presence of the church.
Alright, she With this information, she's going to try to see if she feels any sense of direction of how to get to the church.
You strangely do. You're pretty comfortable. You are able to navigate. You're able to navigate pretty comfortably. You know that it's about 50 miles, so you've got about an hour and a half. But you remember the route, and it's so effortless. And you're just trying to piece things to get, like these memories keep flashing into your head, right? Like, you remember blood and bodies, and how are you feeling right now?
She's, confused. Probably really frustrated. She doesn't like that, like, the one thing she probably feels like she's always had control of and been able to organize and put forward is herself, and not even having control of her own mind. It's bothering her a lot. Mm-hmm. But she's also very just trying to focus on what's the next step, how do I keep going, survive, figure this out. So she isn't focusing on the emotions as much. She's trying to push them to the background.
So, so as this is happening, like, with the camera kind of pans up from you, like, seeing these flashes of memories and starting to piece things together, right? Like, starting to understand a little bit about, like, at least a vague idea of where you're going and who you're meeting. Somebody brought you into this church, and somebody gave you a potion that took memories away, like, took piece of you away, but, like, you clearly felt the feeling of being alive, right? Like, you remember anger and hatred and violence in your head that, like, cleared away, and with that, a lot of memories faded away with them. But you get the vibe that something shook you, and, like, something, you were in a cloud of blood and, like, violence that was lifted. And as you're thinking all of this, as you're piecing this mystery together in your head, that's about when the giant vampire bat smashes into your windshield.
Oh. That's unfortunate.
You hear thumping on top of your roof. You hear, like, a human-ish scream, and you start to see claws, like, tearing into the roof of your car.
Okay, so there's a bat inside and somebody on
no,
the roof.
the bat hit the windshield, came off, and then suddenly there was a humanoid figure on top of your car.
She only has, let's see. She's used her driving.
So then how do you deal with, as this is happening, you are hearing, like, that you start to hear a voice in your head that's like, Leyla, my lieutenant, my greatest soldier, don't, like, you just start to hear, like, this, like, cooing in the back of your head of, like, Leyla, my great soldier, my warrior, my battle axe, like, start to, like, claw in the back of your head.
Ooh. Is she on a main road right now?
You can be. You tell me where you're at right now and, like, what you're planning.
Well, I think she would have been not taking main roads as much as possible. Okay. She's trying to go through uninhabited areas. I think the move here is she can't drive and fight this thing at the same time. She probably can't even fight this thing. All she has is a scalpel. So what she's going to try to do is spot the closest uninhabited structure, like a wall or an alley or something. Slow down enough so that she can open the car door and...
Give me an athletics roll. I know where you're going. Give me an athletics roll.
Go to roll out.
Yeah. Give me athletics.
Okay. 6.
Actually, and what I'll say here I'll give you an extra dice for this because that was not a stunt that I was expecting, but it's extremely cool.
Awesome, okay. So the first roll is a 6. The second one's a 5. 11.
11? Oh my goodness. You, so what happens is, as this is all happening, the car, you turn off the road a little bit. Like, you off-road it just slightly, and you're not even 100% sure why at first. But, like, you off-road it towards a barn, and you jump out of the car smashes into the side of this barn, fire goes up, this flaming vampire bat swoops past you and is screaming with a human voice of just, flies away, and you stand up and you're like, why did I crash my car into a bar? And that's when you get this memory. You get this memory of being of a cache, a bag, a duffel bag in this barn. You remember stashing it here briefly. You remember a moment of clarity, a moment when you weren't in the cloud. You remember stashing supplies here en route to the same church that you're en route to now.
Hey, she's gonna look for that duffel bag.
You find it effortlessly. Like, you find it immediately. And inside, like, it's underneath some hay, it's off in a corner, you have to sort of navigate around a car wreck to get to it. And there is a handgun with several clips of ammunition, a sheaf of different passports, all with your picture on them, cash in various currencies and denominations, medical supplies, gear, a thermos, a photograph of a crucifix? That's weird. You find, like, supplies.
Awesome.
Clearly the you that you don't remember, knew that you would need these things, probably to take on vampire Batmen that are on fire.
Yeah, she's gonna holster the gun, like pull out the bottom of her flannel shirt to kind of cover it, and she'll grab a Hungarian passport. Probably. She'll grab the local currency, and then probably like some euros or one or two other common currencies. Put those in her backpack, and then the other various supplies, she'll load them up into her backpack because that's less conspicuous than a duffel bag.
I think you hear dogs and, like, people shouting coming towards you. Do you hang around or do you duck? Do you sneak away?
Yeah, she's getting out of there.
All right. So you lay low in the woods. You're able to find another car. You can. So I'll give you two options. Or a third option, which is if you've got an idea that's entirely different. There's a car here with no keys. You definitely know that a farmer and some dogs are, like, investigating the barn that a Jeep just tore through. You could, the two options that I will float to you are, you could hotwire this car as well, which would be a mechanics roll, or you could use infiltration, or you could use infiltration to try and sneak inside and find the keys. Okay.
Does laying low in the woods for a bit count as a rest?
I would count that as a rest, but it would take away your opportunity to steal the car right now, because you'd probably have to lay low until morning.
Right, because I'm out of mechanics.
But I would count that as a rest.
I'm out of mechanics and infiltration.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she has to rest.
Okay. Yeah, you lay low. You have some time. Do you want to, you have some time, you have some gear. Do you want to examine any of these things that you ended up with, this flask, this photo, any of these other things? You have other plans? One thing that you can do is you have a network. You have network, which means you could make contact with someone if you needed someone with a certain, like, skill set or certain investigative abilities.
I think first she's going to look at the photo.
Okay. The photo is it's a photo of a crucifix. It's finely made, definitely antique. There appears to be a glass vial built inside. You can't tell what's in it, and it rests on a cushion like a museum exhibit somewhere. You don't necessarily know art or history or the occult enough to, like, understand more about it, but it's definitely, like, a very ornate crucifix with something inside.
Alright, does she, in her supplies, is there any sort of knife?
There is a knife, yes.
Alright, I think it would be common sense to her to make some steaks.
That makes sense.
While
that checks
she's
out.
in the woods.
That checks out. I will give you an edge for that, which is, if you fight a vampire, you can use the stakes. You can discard your stakes card to add an extra dice to fighting.
Awesome. And then she's just gonna kind of flip open the phone, look at it for a few moments, and just think of phone numbers, think of contacts, trying to figure out somebody she trusted that she could call.
Give me a network roll as you kind of flip through your memories to see, like, if you can, like, pull a phone number from your memory.
Okay, the first one's a 2. I'm gonna roll again. Second one's a 3, a 5.
Okay. You, without thinking, you notice you've already dialed in, like, a 10-digit number. Or however many digits phone numbers are in Hungary. I didn't do that much research. I should note that. But you pull up a phone number almost immediately. And you call him. You call, and it's, he picks up. This is Dr. Gilbin. And you remember talking to a Dr. Gilbin, an antiques dealer. You remember talking to him about this crucifix, but you don't remember exactly why.
Hey, this is Leyla.
Oh, no. No. I don't want any more trouble.
No trouble. I just wanted to confirm the location on the crucifix.
Well, it was in the Museum of Royal Religious Artifacts until it was stolen by four black Jeep gun wielding thieves led by a statuesque woman. So I'm not 100% sure. You'd have to tell me. You can, if you want to push one of your interpersonal skills, if you have any interpersonal skills left, like you can get him. But right now he is very clearly like you're clearly not in his good graces.
She has charm and investigative, so she kind of she doesn't really make the decision to do this, I think. It just kind of happens naturally. She, like, lightens up her voice, speaks softly, and says, I'm so sorry. I had no idea something like that happened. Recently, I woke up in the hospital, and I was very hurt, and whatever happened in the last, I don't know, 24, 48 hours, I swear that wasn't me, and I'm very scared and confused right now, and anything you could tell me to help me, I'd really appreciate it.
And he stops, and he kind of pauses for a moment, and he's like, well, she told me not to tell you too much, but it wasn't. Here's what I'll tell you. It was that crucifix that you're looking for, that you and your friends stole and that was stolen from you. It was made in the 16th century. It was incredibly powerful, and it supposedly, legend has it, contained water from the Fountain of Youth. Supposedly, it could clear any ailment no matter how severe. I can only assume why your superior wanted it, and I can only assume why Rostrani, why she wanted to take it from you. And you get flashbacks of memories at this. Like, you think it through. You remember stealing it, and you remember going to a handoff. You remember going to hand it to someone, to deliver it to someone. And as you're thinking about who you were going to hand it to, you remember flashes of that bat that was on fire, that hideous vampire monster that just attacked you, and suddenly you realize you were fulfilling a job. You worked for this man. You worked for that bat thing. That bat thing is trying to bring you back to work. And then you flash another thing of people descending on you. Guns blazing, a firefight. You wound up in the back of a truck that pulled into a church. Blood, screaming, anger. You drank something and suddenly... No, you weren't hungry anymore. You weren't angry anymore.
She looks at the phone. She doesn't turn it on. She's trying to look in the reflection and check her neck.
There is some scarring.
She kind of curses to herself and tries to focus hard, like trying to remember what she drank out of. Trying to picture the crucifix, see if that works or if it doesn't.
It actually does. You picture it very specifically, and you see it's still in that church, and it's still there. You know it's still there. And you know that if you have it, you can... I mean, that's a hell of a weapon to use against a vampire.
Okay. So at this point, she's probably gone silent for a moment or so on the phone. Is he still on the other line?
He is, and he's... hello? Did I lose you?
Hi, sorry. It was a bit overwhelming. Thank you for helping me. I really appreciate it. I want to get to the bottom of this. If you have anything else you can tell me, if anything comes up or you have a change of heart, just let me know.
She told me not to... She told me not to tell you. But if it worked, then I can't not. And he's like, I'll text you an address. And he texts you an address that's very different from the church, but it's still in Budapest, it's still nearby.
All right, I'll get there as soon as I can. Thank you.
And you, yeah, you're back in this position. It's the next morning. Would you like to try and steal some keys? Would you like to try and steal a hotwire car? Do you want to maybe talk to somebody? What's your plan to get to these two places that you're going? This rendezvous point and this church.
There's a few options, some of them less savory. I think she'll wake up in the early morning and like right before the sunrise and try to locate the farmer and the keys.
Sorry, say that again.
So I think she'll wake up early morning, like right before the sunrise, and try to locate the farmer and the keys.
Okay. Give me a... We'll call this maybe a notice.
Okay, so that's an investigative.
Oh, that's an investigative. Yeah, so you're able to figure out where the keys are. Give me actually, I'll ask for an infiltration to get the keys, and if you get it, you'll be able to like get to the rendezvous point where you need to get to.
All right. It's a 4 on the first dice. Is that a hold or a failure?
A 4 is... Give me 1 second. 4 is a hold. 4 is you can get the car, but you'll be noticed in doing so, and you'll get some heat.
Yeah, she'll roll the second dice, yeah. Don't want to mess with that. 2 up to a 6.
6 is still a... Actually, so don't worry about the second roll, because you wouldn't be able to, unless you added a third dice, you wouldn't be able to get to the 9 that you would need to get to the next level, so you're going to catch some heat no matter what. So I'm not going to ask you to roll the second dice.
Okay, so it's 1 infiltration. Yeah,
and you're going to take 2 heat.
Alright, 2 heat. Yeah, I guess she'll do what she has to do. So she tries to get the keys and she's noticed.
Well, you've got the keys, you've got the car, but like you were spotted and they definitely called the police on you, which is why you've got heat. Heat is essentially like how much attention you have on you and how hard it's going to be a cool, stealthy spy.
Right, so she's gonna try to get to the rendezvous point first, not the church, and she'll park like a few blocks away and leave the keys in the car.
Okay. You get to the rendezvous point, and so it's like a tiny apartment in suburban Budapest, or like the outskirts of Budapest. It is kind of like a rundown tenement. It's like not a nice looking apartment.
Does she notice anybody around?
You notice, you see somebody in the window, clearly like the curtain shakes, and clearly like one curtain in one window shakes, but like you see for a split second somebody, a very nondescript looking older woman looks utterly freaking terrified.
Terrified? She just has to go with her gut on this one, and I think she's just gonna go up and knock on the door.
So you knock on the door, there is no answer. There is one of those, like the buzzers for like an apartment complex on the side. And the address you were given did include the address, or the apartment number 4D.
She'll do the buzz.
You buzz, there is like a pause, and then there is a pause, and you hear nothing, but then you hear rustling on a fire escape behind you, or on the other side of the building.
She bolts to the noise.
You get there just in time for this older woman to like really gracefully and effortlessly make it to the floor, and she's like pausing directly in front of you. She starts to reach towards her back, clearly towards what is not particularly gracefully hidden is a gun.
Hey, no need for that. Let's just talk.
You say that, but they took you back.
Who took me back?
This is one of your tricks. This is Jovitzo. This is Jovitzo.
I swear, she holds up her hands, tries to look completely like non-threatening. She says, "I swear, I don't know what you're talking about. I woke up in a hospital. I don't remember anything. Dr. Gilbin sent me. I got the feeling that you'd be able to help me."
So you haven't been turned back then?
Turned back into...
And like her face like barely smiles for half a second, and she's like, I can't believe it worked. I mean, partially. You should have. And she comes up she comes up calmly, she's got her hands up, and then she kind of, like, reaches into her sleeve a little bit, like, pulls something out from up her sleeve, and jams, not, like, jams, like, the flat of a crucifix, right? Like, the, directly, like, into, like, the base of your throat.
Whoa.
And, like, it just burns. Like, there's a clear, crucifix mark burned into directly under your throat.
Ow.
So it didn't fully work.
I'm really on the edge of my seat to find out what it is.
Come inside. We'll talk.
Okay. She follows her.
She comes into your apartment, and there is, like, walking into her actual apartment, you see her take, like, a very strange step, and she's like, that's plastic explosive, you're gonna want to step over that.
Thank you for telling me. And she steps over it.
And she stands there, and she's like, I needed to test something, and I figured, what better way to test it than on Jovitso's right hand. Honestly, we didn't think it would work. We figured you were going to murder all of us, and I'm pretty sure you got pretty close.
This Jovitso, is he, when I say this word loosely, the person I was working for?
Working for, yes. That implies a level of willingness. You were, well, we would hope that you were a vampire thrall, I guess. I mean, there's no... And she kind of leans forward and lights a cigarette. There's no reason to mince words here, right? We both know what we're talking about. I see the stakes in your bag.
Yeah, I had a vampire fly onto the car I was driving, so that filled in a few gaps.
And she drops the cigarette, and she's like, how big? She puts it out with her foot.
He wasn't extremely big. He seemed like an average-sized male vampire. Flew in as a bat. I crashed the car and got away.
Tell me, when you crashed into your car, did you hear things?
He was making these... He was yelling, sort of.
Okay,
Especially after he was on fire.
And she kind of leans forward and she's like, that's not what I mean. Did you hear things in the back of your mind calling to you, scratching at the back of your mind, like a voice that you felt in the pit of your stomach, like a voice that you heard more clearly than you hear your own voice in your head? And you start to think back about, Leyla, my soldier, my battle axe. And you realize that you couldn't have possibly heard that from on top of your car.
She hesitates for a moment, not sure if this information is gonna throw her under the bus. But she decides she doesn't have a hand here, and nods and says, it's not like I felt like I couldn't control myself or resist it, but I did hear things.
And at first you see her reach for the gun. And then you see her kick back and she, like, puts her hand to her mouth and she's like, that was Jovitso, obviously. Here's what I can promise you. She's like, I can give you 2 choices. You have 2 options here. You could go for the crucifix, stare down Jovitso as well as all of his goons by yourself, or you could move. I have a small plane and a private air yard.
From what I've pieced together, and from what you've told me, I had my life taken away from me. I had my entire world probably turned upside down, and I have these memories of blood and bad things, and I don't think this voice in my head is just gonna go away on its own. I also don't think I want to let him go either way.
And she's wearing one of those puffy old lady jackets. And she, like, unzips it and, like, shakes it off a little bit, and you see that she's wearing a Kevlar vest, armed to the nines. And she just leans in, she goes, "That, my dear, is the surest evidence that that crucifix has worked. And also, I like you." So she gets on the phone, or she texts some people, and she's like, "Our associates will be meeting there shortly. We will be..." She's like, "This is what I can promise you. My associates and I can handle Jovitzo's goons. We'll tastefully call them goons. That's on us. We can handle that. What we cannot handle is a fully powered vampire. You're going to have to handle that yourself. Do you feel up to killing a vampire today?"
If you can get me to him, I'll do everything in my power to take him down.
So we cut to our final showdown. It is in the Geller Hill Cave, an underground chapel on the banks of the Danube River. It was used as a field hospital in the Second World War. This is where the ritual was performed that partially freed you from the grasp of Jovitzo. This is where you were dragged. This is where you tried to murder some people. You tried to drink their blood, and you were freed. You drank some of this water from the fountain of eternal life, and you were mostly cleared of your vampiric thrall. They pull up. You several. These are not nearly as cool as the black jeeps that Jovitzo's gang has. You pull up in several station wagons and tiny European cars. Several sort of vaguely vaguely just ordinary looking people climb out and start look at each other. Madame Rostrani leans forward and says, "You are and will always be part of the vampire clan to a certain extent. I can't take that back. Even if you drink the rest of that water and all the water the fountain has to offer, I can't take that back. You're always going to have Jovitzo's voice in your head. You're always going to feel the pull of that. But that comes that you're always going to be powerful enough and strong enough." And she pushes a stake against your chest, the flat of a stake against your chest, and she's like, "To put those motherfuckers back in the ground." And she kind of briefly smiles, and she's like, "All right, boys, we scatter, we go wide, and we give our mostly human friend room to do her business."
She smiles and nods and says, "I heard the crucifix. It's still inside?"
Yes, almost certainly. They've almost certainly sent in, and they look around, they notice the door is open, they've almost certainly sent inside their own guards. They're probably tearing the place apart looking for it. If you can get in quickly, grab it, make your way out, you'll have it. Then, unfortunately, that's going to make you a known quantity on the scene, which is going to bring out Jovitzo. And then it's on you. Are you feeling up to this?
Feeling up to taking him down, certainly. Still getting my bearings even now. The crucifix, is there a way I could use it on him?
And she pauses, and she's like, "Well..."
To weaken him.
Yes, well, you could do more than weaken him. You could... Honestly, you could put him in the ground with it. But he's powerful enough that it would consume it, and you'd be unchanged from how you are right now.
But it would put him down. Right, that's all I need to know.
Okay. Alright, I'm going to ask you for 2 rolls. I'm going to ask you for three general skill rolls.
Mm-hmm.
The first is in athletics, or infiltration, whichever you prefer. Whichever one you choose, you could use the other as stunt dice. An athletics or infiltration to get inside and get the crucifix. Obviously, there's a gunfight happening, so I'll give you an extra dice for the general chaos of what's happening.
Okay.
How does Leyla sneak inside and grab this crucifix?
Right, I think, so there's all this fighting going on. She kind of skirts the edge of it, laying low, tries to get eyes on it, and go for it in the midst of all this chaos. I think... She knows once she has it, she's gonna have a huge target on her back anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So she's gonna make a break for it, so focus on athletics.
Okay. And do you want to use your attrition here? Since you've thinned out their ranks in the past.
I want to see if I need to use it.
Okay.
First.
Got it.
So, athletics, because I'll have 3 dice with athletics and then the chaos.
True.
So that's 2. That's 7. Is that the full success yet?
7 is a hold. You want to get an 11.
Okay, I'll use the chaos dice. That's just an 8. I think she'll use the attrition here. Yeah, this is important. That's 8. And 9.
Okay. So what happens is, in the chaos, you are able to grab the dice. There's guns flying. Things are going wild on all sides. I will let you make a choice. You can get spotted on camera and take heat, which will put you at 4 heat, which will make you like actively wanted by police. You can take an injury card, which is that you get shot, and you're going to need serious medical attention at the end of this adventure. Or you can take, or somebody else can get hurt. Either Rostrani or her ranks will take serious losses.
I think I'll go with getting shot.
Okay. You're going to take serious injury, and and at the end of the session, we'll have to if you don't get medical attention, you'll be seriously incapacitated, which you won't have to deal with, but the next person on Party of One will. So keep that in mind.
Well, whatever decision I made, they'd have to deal with.
That's fair.
There'll be consequences for anything.
That's fair. But they are going to get to use Madame Rostrani as a contact, so that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so you get through it, you get shot in the shoulder, you're bleeding, you are hurt, and suddenly, like, directly in front of you in a flash of smoke is Jovizzo in all of his terrible glory. Giant fangs, giant claws, badly burned all over the place, and is like, just chuckling, is like, look at you, you're hurt, your body is half mortal. You could just come back and be one of us again. You could be a vampire.
Does she have the crucifix?
She does.
She doesn't even listen to his speech. She just goes in for it.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to give you an extra dice for the crucifix as well. Well, here's what I'm going to make you an offer. You can use the crucifix here. It will destroy it, and you will remain. You'll feel that vampiric thrall in future adventures.
And does she get the feeling that a stake isn't going to do it?
If you use the crucifix here, like, you can use the stake and make a fighting challenge roll. You'll get the extra dice for the stake. Or you can just kill him outright with the crucifix and just keep the call of the vampiric pull in the back of your brain.
I think she doesn't want to risk it. She trusts herself more than she would ever trust this guy, so she's gonna go for the crucifix.
Okay. So what happens is it's a flash of light. Like, you slam the crucifix into his chest, and there's just a flash of light and smoke and heat, and you have to turn away because it's too bright, and suddenly you're just covered in ash, and there's just a burnt-up old trench coat in front of you, and the crucifix in your hand, this finely wrought silver crucifix, just crumbles into nothing, into pure ash, and all you're left with is, like, burn marks on your hand from holding this object. And Jovitzo is gone. But there's still that clawing in the back of your mind, the back of your brain.
Mm-hmm. Are people still fighting around her?
There is still, so, as that happens, like, several people point guns, like, look up, and the people, the hitmen in black trench coats look up, and, like, just kind of put down their weapons, and are like, okay, and, like, you know, whether by magically clearing their heads or just plain terror at what happened, they are backing down, and they get, like, you know, shotgun butted to the face and, like, zip tied and loaded into the backs of cars.
I think seeing that the fight is ending, she isn't going to jump back into the fray. She kind of breathes heavily, you know, clutching at the gunshot wound, looking down at the pile of ashes, and even though she doesn't have a clear memory of everything that she did, she just feels this wave of both, like, relief, but also, like, she still feels like this isn't over. Like, she's staring at this pile of ashes, and it's like this thing that's been part of her life for so long. Like, She can't believe that in an instant he seems to be gone. So she's pretty much in shock after everything she's been through.
And you stand there, and you kind of collapse a little bit because you've been shot. It's not a great experience. You're losing blood. Do you, as your last action, do you want to call for help? Do you want to try and, like, get help? Like, what's your action now? I know you're in shock. Is it just trying to process this? Or are you just trying to keep your cool until you can get somewhere safe? Are you calling on someone with your network?
I think she'll, as she lands, kind of jerk and realize that the pain in her side, and still kind of out of it, the only person she really thinks of is Madame Rostrani, so she calls out for her and says, I've been shot.
Oh, well, yeah, you're definitely human, huh? That's, normally that would just, patch right... I'm sorry, I'm making jokes. That's not right.
Yep, feeling pretty human right now.
Give me a network. I'm actually gonna say, like, she can treat, like, she patches you up about as well as you were patched up by Halmy in the hospital earlier. And, there's a grim moment when you realize, oh, that's probably what that other one was. And, like, you kind of pause, and you're patched up sort of awkwardly, but at least you're patched up, and she's like, so, you should... And, like, we have a moment, and she's like, so what are you going to do? And that's about when you see the light, like, the police lights, and she's like, right, we should probably be scarce.
Yeah, we gotta get out of here. We'll talk about what's next.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll talk. And she, like, loads into her car. The two of you load into your car. I think that the last thing that we see is the two of you on this airfield together. You taking control of this plane. Apparently you can fly a plane. That's new information. And she just, like, quietly gets back in her car as you fly this little single-seat plane as best you can with a bullet in your shoulder. And we watch your plane fly off into the dead of the night against the blood-red moon, and that's game.
That was so good.
That was really good! That was really fun! I had so much fun!
I did too. I had so much fun.
Oh, I'm really glad. Thank you for coming on the show and playing with me. This was an absolute delight.
Oh, thank you for having me. Like, this is like just mind blowing. Like,
Oh,
I never like listening to podcasts, actual play podcasts. Like, it's so crazy to think, that I'll get to guest star on one, or that mine might become, have a good audience at some point. It's an amazing opportunity. So
I'm glad. It means a lot. Thank you. Real quick before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
Right, so I have a SoundCloud, Elizabeth Biz Diedrich, if you want to catch me there. I have Discord, BusyBee number 9144, if you want to contact me about music commissions, or just chat, or about podcasting, or writing, or anything really. I love to hear from people. As I said before, Throwing Bones, we have a Twitter you can check out. That's at @bones_throwing. Find us on whatever podcasting platform that you use. You can find the link to the Discord server and the Patreon through there. And come in and say hi. I would love to talk to you. I love meeting people interested in my content and learning about other people's content. And I look forward to it.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for coming on to the show. This was an absolute delight. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Biz for coming on the show. That game was fun. God. Stay tuned. Come back next week for part 2 of Agent Leyla Khan story, in which Grant Ellis takes a trip to Spain and investigates another leg of the vampire conspiracy. Until then, be sure to follow Biz on Twitter and the Throwing Bones podcast at bones_throwing. And check out Throwing Bones at throwingbonespodcast.buzzsprout.com. Then, while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. Join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. Head to our merch store at bit.ly/partyofonemerch. That money is also going towards sources like the One Shot Safety Net and Nathan Pauletta's Mutual Aid Fund. Check out sources like the One Shot Network Safety Net and Nathan Pauletta's Mutual Aid Fund. And one other way you can support this show is by supporting the other show that I create, All My Fantasy Children. AMFC is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast powered by you. Every week, my best friend Aaron Catano Saez and I take a listener-submitted prompt. We spin it into an original fantasy character, and we populate a shared universe one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday-ish at Party of One. Nope, that's our website at oneshotpodcast.com. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran, featuring the D&D Sluggers. And the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, press coverage, or about coming on the show as a guest, shoot me an email at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And that's it for me. Until next time, remember to take care of each other. Remember to stay safe. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.